Then the next thing I would do is put together a team. I like to use Google Sheets for this. I create what basically something like you see right here, where it shows the day, the shift times. I like to do 3-hour shifts. Some people prefer scheduling people for 2 hours. I find that it becomes hard to fill a day with only 2-hour shifts. So I do three. It breaks a 12-hour day up nicely into 4 shifts. But sometimes it varies. I might do 4. It depends on the event and the people that are engaged at that time. And then I'll shade in the days where I need, how many shifts I need. So all the yellow would be places where people would add their names. You can see at the peak hours on Saturday, I've added a 3rd shift. But you might even only need 1 person for the first day on Friday, 3 people during the peak, maybe 2 people otherwise. The time goes better with 2 people. I find, if you can at least have 2 people at a table, it's good. And I'll talk a little bit in the tips and tricks section about why that's important. And okay, yeah. Is anyone else, just reading the comments, is anyone else having an issue hearing, or looks like we're good? Okay. Yeah, sorry, Peggy. If it continues to be a problem, we will have a recording that I'll send around afterwards. So yeah, this is just a simple form. I can help you set one up if you have an event in your state, but it can help you make sure that every shift is going to be covered, and it can help, be an easy tool where people can just go in themselves and add their name to whatever shifts they're able to cover. This is a list of the supplies that we have for tabling, and we've just compiled 5 tabling kits that include all of these supplies. We're going to have a variety of different kits. So we might have a kit for smaller events like a farmer's market, and then a kit for a bigger event like a 7-day fair. But this is like the full kit if we were going to go to a big event. I'll just read through them quickly. We have a variety of different handouts, some of which we're still finalizing. So we'll have new branded handouts for all of the events this summer. The prize wheel, which you'll see pictures of soon, which has been a great addition. I think maybe the idea came from Nancy originally. So thank you for that. It's been a big hit. And then the various prizes. We have some that are just fun things that, a kid would like, or, some of them even adults, like the little Rubik's cubes are a fun toy to include as handouts. But then anything that's, we have things that are AP branded, like shirts, hats, pocket constitutions, notepads, stickers, pins, pens, and fans. And we put all those on the prize wheel so people can win various things. We like to have a few American flags on holders. One of the tips is that I would suggest is if you have a big event, you want to build it up. You don't want your table to be flat. You want people to be able to see some things as they're walking up. It helps to give the presence of something bigger, something more flashy, and it helps draw people in. So having like the plastic sign holders that you can put a sign in is great. You can maybe have people read the text of the amendment. You might have like the prize wheel in the middle of the table that adds some height and some color to the table. And then the American flags are a nice touch that matches our branding, matches what we're trying to do, and gives it a nice design to the table. The amend mints have been a big hit. These are just breath mints, but a sign that says amend mints. It's a little funny pun, and people get a kick out of it. So that's just the amendments, the sign, and a basket. We have a banner, and we also have a table runner. The table runner goes over the front of the table. I'll show you some pictures in just a minute, and the banner goes behind you. We have various props so that you can do a photo booth, which I'll show you also in a moment. And these are the various props that we might have there for people to put on and hold up as they take pictures. I always like to keep, especially at this hot summer events, is a big jug of water or like lemonade and some cups, because they do, these summer events in parts of the state get very hot. People get, exhausted, dehydrated, and it gives them an opportunity to come up to the table and stop for a moment, which gives you sort of an opportunity to engage. I also like doing candy too. Kids love candy. If the kids are happy, the parents stay at the table longer. So have a little treat for people is a helpful tool. And then little things you might not think to bring, but are super important. You want to make sure you have tape. And I would suggest using, for a big event, having painter's tape and something stronger like duct tape. If you need to hold up the banner or do something that, you know, is a bit heftier, the painter's tape just won't cut it. You'll want to make sure you have markers in case you want to make a sign, pens, plenty of pens so people can sign on to the Citizen Pledge. This one is one that a lot of people would forget is paperweights, or, you know, you could even scavenge rocks while you're there. But if your event's outside, as soon as that first gust of wind comes through, all of your handouts will go flying. So you want to make sure those are covered up. You may need a table, chairs, and a canopy. And those are things that we can't ship because of the cost of shipping, but something that we can work with you on acquiring. And I think I mentioned the rest of these. We have a tablecloth that matches the runner, and then clipboards and a tripod. On the tripod, we usually keep a big poster that has the text of the Citizen Pledge, and that's also something that we'll include in the packets. And for folks who joined as I was already speaking, if you have questions as I go, type them in the chat. If that's helpful, you can hold on to them also, because we will do a Q&A at the end. But if you throw them in the chat, I'll try to address them as we go. So then there are two things that I like to include at the tables: tabling actions and tabling activities. The tabling actions are things that we're asking people to do. And depending on where your state is at or what projects you're working on, this could vary. The basic one that we ask people is to sign our Citizen Pledge. It works at just about any event. It helps get people into the pipeline to be contacted about being more involved, and it gives people an opportunity to even just sign up to volunteer right away. So we can do a QR code we have a QR code on our literature. We can do a QR code in a plastic sign holder, and or tape them onto the table so people can scan it. That is the easiest way, because then you get everybody's information. You don't have to enter it at the end, and sometimes deciphering people's handwriting is really challenging. So getting all of the information directly is very useful, but we definitely don't rule out using paper form, which I'll show you in the next slide. But, you know, depending on where your state is at, you might want to include other actions as well. We're acquiring an advocacy tool that will make it very easy to send letters to your legislators. So we could do letter writing campaigns for legislation. We can do actual physical postcards, which can be very powerful. You might have like a specific event that you're promoting, and in that case, one of your actions might be to RSV people for that specific event. So depending on what you have going on, you might include, you know, a few things. You don't want to have so many things that it overwhelms people, but having, you know, 2 or maybe even 3 options that people can do to take action can be really effective. And then this is just the basic multi-signer Citizen Pledge. This is what we keep at the table. It's got about, I think 12 lines there, 11 or 12 lines per sheet. You write the event date and location and the event name at the bottom, so we know where the signatures came from, and then collect people's information. One thing I would suggest, if you're using this paper sheet, is to put either your information in the first line or do a fake name and include every bit of information. Do your first and last name, a full address, including zip code, your phone number, and an email address, and check the box to volunteer. And there's some sort of psychological effect that I notice very clearly out in the field, which is people will just write the information that the person before them wrote. So if the first person only writes their name and email address and doesn't give us an address and phone number, the following people are likely to do the exact same thing. Whereas the first person provides their full information, the next people will provide that as well. And of course, this information stays within our system. We're very protective of that information, so no one has to worry about their information being sold or shared with outside organizations. But it is really important to have the address so we can match them to their political district and their legislators, and the phone number so that we can get in touch when there are urgent actions to take. And then tabling activities, and these are the fun things, and we talked about this. This is the prize wheel, so it's, you know, a nice colorful addition. It's fun. It's just, you know, just spinning the thing is kind of exciting. And then, you know, the anticipation. Am I going to win a shirt or a hat, or am I going to win like a pen that I could have just walked off with anyway? So it can be, you know, it definitely is fun. It gets people engaged. Sometimes, you know, if you're having like a serious conversation with someone, they're not going to want to spin the wheel. They were just there for information. That's fine too. But it definitely gives it a more positive, you know, feeling at the table, and you can have a little fun with it. And these again are the prizes that we give out. We also have like bouncy balls. There are a few just, you know, items that don't really have anything to do with American Promise. They're just colorful, fun little items. And then the majority of the stuff is American Promise branded. And then like the pocket constitutions, which are actually educational. And then this is the photo booth I was talking about. You can see we had a lot of fun with it in Arizona. We had bags of money, these fake, you know, money bags, and then just this movie prop cash. We had different hats. We also had like a Statue of Liberty set up there. They had the trichome hat, the giant top hat, and people would, you know, the barrels in the background are a nice touch. So people would want to come up and have their picture taken, just having some fun. And it actually did get a lot of engagement. So, and it was just, you know, gave it a great fun twist. So that's an option. We have this in it also to share with folks in the packages. All right, so the last, I think, oh, yeah, so this is, I think, the last major section I wanted to cover before I open it up. There's one smaller section afterwards, but we'll open up for conversation and questions in just a bit. But I wanted to go over tabling tips and tricks. I think these little things can actually make a huge difference in how the interactions go at the table. So a few things that I would recommend is, if you have multiple people, have at least one person standing in front of the table and one person standing in back of the table. And the person in front of the table should be the more extroverted person who really doesn't mind just jumping out and talking to people. And that helps to bring people into the table. And then having a person at the back of the table that you can kind of direct them to. So the person in front is like the person who stops the individual, introduces them to the issue maybe in the organization, and then maybe brings them over to the table to show them what, you know, some of our literature, the prize wheel. And at that point, the person in back can take over the conversation, or they can switch places, and the person who was in back can then go out and try to get more people into the table. So, you know, having that balance can allow you to have more conversations. When you are in front of the table, the first impression is really important. So what I do is I will just I'll stay sort of focused on the crowd as people are walking by, and I'll try to catch someone's eye. And that gives me a good opportunity to give them just a smile and a wave and a warm hello. And that allows me to bring more people into the table. If you just wait at the table for people to come up and ask you what you're doing, you know, what the organization is about, you're going to lose 75% of the people that you could be talking to. Some events do have some limitations here. You can't be like out in the middle of the hallway trying to grab people and drag them to your table, or screaming, or, you know, you can't be just aggressively trying to pull people into your table. I wouldn't expect this group to be like that, so it's no worries. But you know, just keep that in mind. You'll find that information in the vendor application oftentimes, or there's sometimes at the bigger events, there's someone who monitors your area, and they'll just come around and give you like the general rules right up front. And those are always people to maintain good relationships with, because they can determine whether you come back the following year. Speak conversationally and listen carefully. I think when I'm at these events, a lot, like some of the best volunteers that I connect with are people who didn't really ask a lot about the issue itself. Like, we just ended up having a really good conversation and making a good connection. And that kind of human connection really helps people to feel comfortable coming into an organization or getting more involved. So, you know, while what we are saying is very important, sometimes, you know, the connection you make with someone, the body language, it can make a big difference also. This is a really important one. We really got to focus on our mission, and there are several reasons for this. One of which is that as the organization that we are, this is all we do, right? We are solely focused on one issue, and that is the 4R Freedom Amendment. So we don't want to go off on promoting, I should say, other types of reform. But even more important is like stay away from hot button issues, because you never know what someone's political affiliation is. I've stepped in it a few times, and it's not, you think someone is going to support something that you support, and you bring it up and they go silent. And you can tell right away, okay, this is not something that this issue was clearly a hot button issue for this person. So focus on money in politics. I would say the only caveat is if you ask someone, like, what issues do you care about? Then you can engage with them on those issues. And if you are going to talk about them, what I would suggest is trying to show them how money in politics affects that particular issue. And that's, we're fortunate that, unfortunate and fortunate that this issue ties in so closely to so many other issues. So that's something that with a little practice, we can do fairly easily. Be yourself, be comfortable. This kind of, I guess I already touched on this. So the next one is be respectful, kind, and patient. And I say this not because I'm worried about you, but because sometimes you get someone up at the table who is just kind of rude or really negative or aggressive. It's pretty rare, but it does happen occasionally. And if that is the case, we don't want to try to escalate the issue at all. We just want to, say thank you so much and allow them to move on. Or if they're being really in your face and aggressive, you can even just ask them to move on, thank them for stopping by. But, clearly we can't see eye to eye. So let's just agree to disagree, that kind of thing. Instead of, just trying to fire back or feel like you have to get the last word in, because that's just going to get people aggressive. And oftentimes, if there are some of these events where if you're, there late at night, people have been drinking. So, just don't throw gas on the fire, I would say. This one I think is really important. We've practiced with, my notes don't match up. Okay, so on the sheet, okay, monitor the sign-up sheet. I talked about this a little bit. If you're doing the paper sheets, you just want to sort of watch as people fill out in case their handwriting isn't legible. I mean, you don't want to hang over their shoulder so they're uncomfortable, but before they leave, maybe just check their handwriting. If they didn't give information and you feel comfortable saying, hey, I noticed you didn't leave your email address. We don't send you a lot of emails. You can always unsubscribe, but to stay up to speed with what we're doing, you might want to consider including an email. So, just checking that sheet before they head off can be helpful to get a little bit more information or to clarify some handwriting that might be hard to read. And then also touched on this, keep a cold jug of water or some candy or even coloring books at the table. Helps to keep kids at the table. It helps, keep other people, the drinks especially help to keep just about anyone at the table at a hot event. And most places are charging for this stuff. Like a lot of times it's hard to even find a cup of water that you don't have to pay for. So people will be relieved that someone's just offering them something cold to drink. And then I think we could probably spend the rest of the time basically talking about messaging, which, happy to get into after we wrap things up here a little bit more in detail. But I would suggest everyone review our messaging documents. I will, let me see if I can throw the link to the, yeah, here's the link to the slideshow that I'm going through. So you have these links. Here we go. These are, good documents to review. We have more documents also that I'm happy to share with you. The website is full of information, so that's a good place to look. And then we're working on this frequently asked questions document, which I think will be a very useful tool for these types of events. And this is a first draft. It's still usable, but we'll have a branded second draft coming out soon. And then before your event, I would encourage you to schedule a 30-minute call with me or Mike to practice. If you feel at all uncomfortable about going out and having lots of conversations with people, you can use that link right there to schedule a 30-minute call with me. You can always email me or call as well, and I'd be happy to get you on the calendar to do a one-on-one or group practice to make sure you feel comfortable heading into the event. All right, and then finding a good opening line. So a lot of times when you're at these events, there are hundreds of people. They move by very quickly, and sometimes you only have 3 to 5 seconds to really hold someone's attention before they're moving on. So we've really tried to refine some good opening lines, and I find that maybe having a few to cycle through is helpful. But once you find one that really works, sticking with that also helps to build confidence that you're bringing people into the issue. So here are a few that we've been using. Just keeping it really simple. Do you want to stop billionaires from buying elections? Do you want to help us stop corruption in government? And do you want to learn how we can get big money out of politics? And I've really been liking that last one. If anyone else has suggestions, I'd love to see them. So feel free to throw them in the chat. Just little, one sentence stoppers that get people to go, okay, I'm sort of interested in what else you have to say. And then this is just like a general guide of how I would navigate a conversation. Of course, every conversation is different. It might take you in different directions, but just generally, I'm going to use an opening line. First, I'm going to try to catch their eye, smile and wave. Hey, how you doing? Do you want to stop billionaires from buying elections? Or do you want to learn more about how we can get big money out of politics? Then you want to introduce the organization. I always like to say that we're nonpartisan and nonprofit. People often get turned off by political causes that they feel may be opposed to their political beliefs. So letting them know right up front that we're nonpartisan is really helpful. Then I like to ask a question. Anytime you can get people engaged right away, you're gonna have a much better conversation. So I like to start with questions like, do you think you have an equal say in government compared to big campaign spenders? Or do you think there's too much money in our political system? And those can often spark, good conversations from that. Then I outline the problem, talk about big money, dark money, and now foreign money dominating our elections, how this fuels division, how it's silencing the American people, and it stalls progress on the many issues that we face as a nation. And then talk about the solution, the 4R Freedom Amendment. And don't forget to tell them what they can do about it. So now that they know about this big problem, they know that there's a solution and why we need to pass this amendment, then we want to get them engaged in the work that we're doing. Oops. Okay, and I've taken some pictures of various events that we've attended so you can see the different types of tables that you might set up for various events. This is going to be like a bigger fair. You can see this stuff, there's a drawing, so that's like an activity, a fun activity for people. There's some red, white, and blue, colorful props on the table helping to build it up. There's this plastic scan sheet on the right, and then you can see it like the paper fans, some notepads. They have their clipboards right up front so people can sign on. They've got the banner in the background. So this is going to be like a full kit and a full table that you do at a weekend event or a 7-day event, something along those lines.
I'm sorry, Chris, a quick question.
Yeah.
Can you go back to the previous slide? What was the free drawing? How did that work?
So the drawing was for a flag, and I believe it had been flown over the state capitol, and they were collecting people's information and then drawing the flag. I don't know if Marie remembers more information about it, but I think.
Is this Vicky's? Was this Vicky's table? Yeah, they through, I think it was maybe through her congressman's office, they had gotten a flag that had been flown over the state, over the Capitol, over the U.S. Capitol.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yep, and this was at in Arizona at our Freedom is Brewing. You can see we have all the props on the table. It looks a little busy, you know. It's a little more, yeah, I don't know, busy, I guess, but you know, there's a lot more stuff on that table than you would have at something that's a little more maybe professional, like a professional business event or a convention. This one was just 2 weekends ago. Cheryl and Esther in Illinois went and tabled at a Rotary Fest, and that was their first tabling experience, and they did great. It was so exciting. I was very excited for them. But you got the setup here with the table runner and a few of the props out there. They only have materials just for a few hours, so a typical fair might have a little bit more on the table. And then the next two are from conventions. This is from a political convention. You can see the table's a lot simpler. There's more information on the table, less props and prizes. We do include the shirts and hats there for folks. Same thing with this. This was at a convention. You know, just a little more straightforward, a little less flashy. And then it could be something as simple as this. So we talked earlier, like I've had some of the best success tabling in front of a post office, believe it or not. Now you can't do it on the property. That's federal property. They don't like that. But if there's a public sidewalk in front, you can set up just a very simple table with the citizen pledge and a sign, a little 8.5 by 11 sign, and you know, get a bunch of pledges in one day without doing all of the work necessary to plan for a huge event. And similar here, the picture on the left is from a farmer's market. Very simple 4-foot table, one sign and a sign up sheet. The one on the right is a college event. We did some volunteer recruitment at a college. Again, just really simple because it's just in a little hallway outside the classroom. Probably could have done a little bit more for the college event, but it doesn't have to be anything too flashy. And then finally is the follow-up. Now, if you're just sort of in one person in a state, or you don't have an established chapter, this may be left to American Promise. We can upload the data and make sure we get in touch with anyone who signed the pledge or signed up to volunteer. But especially if you're part of a state chapter and a team, this may be something you want to do to build relationships with your new prospects. So if that is the case, you would share photos with us so we can get them into our database, pictures of the sign-in sheets, so we can get them in the database right away and get them into our email series. But then we'd want to contact them directly, and ideally within the first 2 days. So anyone who signs up to volunteer should get just a phone call thanking them for coming to the table and inviting them to your next meeting. And then you want to log your progress in the Action Center so that we can have a report at the end of the year of all the progress that we've made.